and welcome back to Triplicate, and today the mean green synthesizer. Let's put you at the desk. So the story so far, we have a working synthesizer which somewhat sadly we decided had to be monophonic because the processor hasn't got any go to do anymore, and to date it works, it makes a noise, but none of the controls work, and the display currently just displays the last MIDI message received, and we can't store any sounds in non-volatile memory, which is fair enough because we can't edit them. So, time to move on. Now, I had decided with this, as with all projects, to try and do maybe 2 or 3 videos on the trot on the one project, because what was happening, I was coming back after 6 weeks, 2 months to work on a project for a week and had completely forgotten where I got to and how it all worked. So this way I think things will move on a bit faster, and this is actually going to be mostly coding. So what I'm proposing to do is actually really crack on with the coding and just bring you back for updates. So it might not be that many videos for quite a lot of progress, but you don't want to watch me writing software, do you? So, as I was saying, I forget what everything is and I forget what all the knobs are supposed to do. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is label the front panel controls so I know what they do or what they're supposed to do, and then I'm going to try and make them do it. And actually the very first thing I'm going to do, I think, is give the front panel a wipe, because it's gathered some serious dust over the last couple of months. So I've sorted on the left hand side the envelope. Didn't like doing it that way. That was the one I tried first. So basically I've just cut out squares where the pots are and a slot where the switch and the LEDs are. And this is adhesive back stuff. So you just peel the back off and stick it down. So here's the second side. So I'm going to, well, it's a complete hack, I know, but it's better than masking tape with marker pen on it. That's my excuse. So here we go. Just snip through there. Okay, quickly cut out, so I'll do the rest and maybe show me sticking it down. Okay, so that's where the filter goes, so excuse me. There we go. Line her up. Oops, a wrinkle in it. Good enough. We know what the controls do now. That's what we're aiming for, and that's what we can do. Right, so I shall finish it off. Okay, here we have the read on envelope one. I realise the problems I'm having with this is these were taken off my original drawing, and when I actually came to lay out the front panel I changed the spacings of things somewhat so they don't fit perfectly. And added to that my cutting out and gluing down. Well, it's a prototype, a hack. Oh, get off. Like all that cockeyed I have. Looking it peels up without too much. Right, that is it. Oh no! The wrinkly envelope, and lastly and finally, gotta have this on. If we can get it vaguely straight. There we go. Top professional job. So, clear up some of this mess and get into some coding. Okay, so I have, as I promised, cracked on and made some good progress, and rather than showing you code, I'll show you the way I think about code, which is to draw a lot of boxes and arrows. So let's consider the filter cutoff. So the filter cutoff, we have the pot, and that pot doubles up to set the modulation amount. So if you turn that pot, that sets the static filter cutoff value. Press that and turn it, it sets the modulation amount. Press that and turn it, you get the modulation source. So you can set all three parameters up very simply. So each pot or switch is a control, which is a structure in the code. So for the filter cutoff frequency, which I've used as an example here, we have the frequency pot, the mod source and the mod amount. And the frequency pot, when you move it, it calls a handler function which decides what to do with the new value. And that handler just looks up the state of these switches. Nothing actually happens when these switches are pressed and released. Next up we have a program value. This is the value that's saved with the program. So it's a value between 0 and 127 for most things. Because this is a MIDI based synthesizer, the values are stored in the same number format that MIDI messages would be used to change them dynamically. So the handler, depending on the state of the switches, changes the program value for frequency potentiometer, the static value, the frequency, cutoff frequency modulation, and the cutoff frequency modulation source. And it also sends the value to a menu item, and I'll talk about the menus in a minute. So when you change the filter cutoff, it goes to the filter menu automatically. So that's just partially for a quick way of getting there. And what I have not put in here, which I will do now. So I've added these three rather scrawled boxes. The diagram gets scruffier and scruffier as time goes on. These are the actual parameters, and these values are updated when our pot's turned or when we get a MIDI message, and I've not looked at MIDI yet, but that's where MIDI values will go when we do look at MIDI. So let's have a look at the menus. So there are a number of menus. For instance, a filter menu and an oscillator menu, which I haven't got onto yet, and each menu has a number of menu items. And the filter menu is the cutoff frequency modulation and modulation source, the resonance frequency modulation, and modulation source, the envelope 2 modulation, which is a sort of hardwired modulation, and the filter configuration. And these just appear in a list. So here's how it works in practice. I've got to reach around the camera here because the camera has to be pointing straight down at the display to see the display. So if we change the cutoff frequency, the menu comes up there. And it shows the cutoff frequency changing, and when we load a new program, or in this case when it loads the default program at startup because the storage isn't implemented, that pot is actually at the position in the program. So say it's at 114 but the pot is quite low, so if I wind the pot down we can only get to 88 with the pot right at the bottom. So we have a pot reset button, so we can press that and move the pot up to the top, but it doesn't change the value, and then we can move the pot further down, and the pot is supposed to do 127 from end to end and it isn't, so there's a bug there. So the frequency is implemented, the resonance pot is implemented. The dog's going loopy, and the pot, as well as doing the filter cutoff value, does the modulation source. Again, that doesn't, it's not too easy to adjust, so there's something wrong there. It's full of bugs, but I'm just trying to get the basic bones working at the minute. And we can do the cutoff modulation amount. However, if we set the modulation source to LFO1 and the modulation amount somewhat less than that, I think that you can hear it warm, but I think that's the panning. So that's not working either. Well, it's not affecting what it's supposed to affect. And if we go back to here, you'll notice there's no way of changing the config. That's where these guys come in. So they will allow us to move up and down the menu items, and I have yet to put some way of cursoring whether the selected menu item and then the value button will change the menu item. So that, I think, is next on the agenda. I'm trying to get rid of some of these bugs out of here, and then I might move on to the oscillator, and probably that is the point I will bring you back and report on progress. Okay, here we are. So I fixed the problem I was having with the pots. There we go. I'd copied and pasted some code and not gone through and changed all the bits I needed to change in the paste code to modify it how it needed to be for the second instance I was using it, if that makes sense. So I have got these guys working, so we're now going to so that works with the cutoff, so down we go, and the cutoff modulation, which as I've said it doesn't seem to be working as it should. Oh, and that kills it. Never mind. We've killed it. I'm not worried about bugs in the synthesizer end at the minute. We're just trying to get all the controls and the display and the menus working. So there we go down. I'm at F2 mod, and we can go down resonance, resonance mod, and resonance mod source, and it all nicely scrolls back up again. Not quite sure that's working perfectly, but anyway, for now I'm going to leave it as it is and go on to the oscillator and try and get those controls working. Okay, so here we are with the oscillator controls done, implemented. So that's oscillator 2, the mix. It's oscillator 1. So, whoops, press the wrong button. I'll try to press the LED. There we go, and if we go to oscillator 2, I think the mix to the other end. And put the mix in the middle. So there we go. So we're making progress. Okay, so I think I'm gonna call it on this video here. Sorry, these videos are just gonna be little progress reports in between lots of coding, because I just want to get on and get this thing basically up and running, and then we can have a bit more fun trying to fine tune it and turn it into a synthesizer we'd actually like to play. So that's it for now. So it's goodbye from Triplicate, home of interesting electronics. Goodbye.